Patti Meredith, if you ran the world, what would change? What would happen?
What would happen? A lot would happen.
Okay, well, maybe narrow it down to like one thing. Today's guest is Patti Meredith, whose novel, South of Heaven, was recently released.
It's about two sisters, Fern and Leona. They're middle-aged and they are really estranged. I mean, they don't get along at all. And so one has done like what you think everything right, and the other one has done what people think everything wrong. And so circumstances, bring them together back under the same roof, of course, because, if they could just go live their lives, there wouldn't be a book, right? So something had to happen. So circumstances bring them back together. And it's just them trying to find their way to each other. And a lot of the misconceptions come out. And it's a lot about secrets, the secrets that we keep from each other and from ourselves. Time lingered more than passed in the sandhills of North Carolina, where no ancient mountains or ocean tides marked the days. The sandhills lay low, midway between, flatland where in summer acres of lank-leaf tobacco flourished in spite of its fall from grace. A Venetian blind sagged over the front window of the Citizen Times. Fern McQueen was careful with the tattered pole. Every morning she expected the string to unravel in her hand. Across the way on the courthouse lawn, her son sat on a granite bench tucked beneath a white oak, a memorial to her husband Mac, missing in action since the Vietnam War. Dean visited the bench most mornings before clocking in at Frank's garage. "We talk, Mama," he said, "in my head." Fern had tried to dissuade her son from telling people about these talks, knowing it only brought about more pity from the town of Carthage. But Dean was Dean. Her boy had no secrets. Reading is so awkward.
It is, but you are, how did the North ever try to make the South sound, well, maybe it wasn't the North, but I think it probably was us. How did we ever try to stomp out the Southern voice when it is so lovely? Just your reading of that, the words themselves, but then your voice. Who would trade that in for the flatness of up here? It's just crazy to me.
Okay, and this might be because I'm just, I just like to gossip and stuff, but my prompt is to take each one of your characters, take your people, and say, okay, what are your secrets? Like, got a character and you're like, okay, Fern, tell me your secrets. What are your top 10 secrets? It's not just the secret, it's the reason why she keeps the secret. Mm-hmm. It's why that's important for other people not to know, because that's who so that helps her present herself in the world the way she wants to be presented, which I think is a really important thing to know about your character, who she is to the world and who she is inside. Because we all face it. I mean, it's not like we're not just all real honest.
We're all posing a little bit.
We're all posing a little bit. Yes, we are. And to know that level, and I'm not talking about big, hairy, crazy, bad secrets. It's just like little things. Mm-hmm. So I think that helps you know. That helps you learn more about your character and what's important to your character. And there are some big ones too that shape lives. So that's important too.
I think regardless of genre, like I see this in nonfiction, there's so much power in what is not spoken, or the things we think we can't speak and why, which is what you're saying. And I think one of the many things I love about this novel, Patti, is your characters. And I wonder if there are a connection between like lovability and relatability of people and characters to the keeping of secrets.
I have one person in there, Leona. At the beginning, she's not likable. Mm-hmm. She's kind of stuck up. She's not nice to her family. She puts herself above everybody. And, it's her secrets that formed her. And it's what she's afraid of. I think it's like, what is Leona afraid of? That's another good question to ask. My old boss, Mr. Friday, I'd be talking to him and saying, blah, 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 about somebody. And he'd say, now, Miss Meredith, what are they afraid of? And it would just stop me like, oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, that's just human, right? Like it cuts through it is so easy to not like and judge somebody who, like Leona, is posing or wants to be seen a certain way. But when you bring it down to like what they're afraid of, that's right. We all have that. We all have something we hope somebody won't see. I love this quote by Toni Morrison, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong. It's, if there's a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, you must write it. I use that a lot of times, like in workshops, especially memoir workshops. But I like that she's basically saying, you should work on the kind of book that you would most like to read. I wonder what about South of Heaven feels like the kind of book that you wanted or needed to read.
I think I have this secret. I wanted to be a preacher when I grew up. I used to line my dolls up and preach to them.
That is, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And this book has a minister, has a preacher. So I think that's part of it. But I wanted people to see that they need to forgive themselves. I think there's, Fern's running on a lot of shame. She's done terrible things. And it's like, she really needs to give herself a break. But what is that saying about we're not our worst mistakes?
Fiction to me is a mystery. How you make a world like that is, I don't understand it, and I find it to be a big kind of magic. So what are some things that either you've learned along the way or a thing that you're still learning that you think is central to good fiction?
Really, really knowing the character. And our friend Darnell Arnault, Darnell,
I love Darnell.
Yeah, for years she taught, she was like, for character study, do this, make this list, picture, all this stuff. And of course, I nodded and smiled at her and didn't do any of it, because you just want to do the shortcuts. Mm-hmm. You just want to write, or you just want to do it. You don't want to do the other stuff.
Right.
But with Dean, it was like that. A scene came to me years ago of this of a young boy, and the bamboo that grows in the South.
Yeah.
Patches. He was in this bamboo patch and he was just hacking at it. He was pretending that he was looking for his father who was missing in Vietnam. And so this scene came to me. I don't know where it came from, this young boy in this bamboo, and I knew that his father was missing in Vietnam, and that when he was like 11 or 12, he pretended that he found his dad. He'd play like he found his dad, and his dad would look at him and say, "Oh, Dean, am I glad to see you?"
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was like finding out more about Dean and really just talking to this one character that showed up, and then talking to him about, okay, well, who's your mom? Who's your dad? Who are these people? And one thing led to another.
So it seems like some combination of like those images coming to you or ideas and trusting them enough to go with them. You said like making a list, but then you also said something really interesting. You said talking to the characters.
I told them this morning that I was doing this YouTube. And they were like,
was he okay? Did Dean give his blessing?
Well, it was a bunch of them at the kitchen table. And it was like, they were like, "You're doing what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing this YouTube thing, this podcast thing." And they were like, "Oh my God."
I got to tell you, I struggle with fiction. And I think it's because I feel like I'm playing with paper dolls, but you're not talking about that.
But it starts that way, I think. It starts that way.
You're a great writer and you've got great descriptions, but there's something else there that I think is coming through, and it's part of what you're talking about.
Don't feel like that you don't get an agent if you don't do this, if you don't do that. There are different ways to publish now, and to do it if you want. The small presses are wonderful. Mm-hmm. And there are pros and cons, but there are pros and cons to everything. And just to believe in you can do it. There's a place for your writing. Mm-hmm. And I think something I learned during the pandemic, and I know everyone's different, and so this is just me, but I learned that you have to be unsocial. I think I had always thought, well, you just write, when you write, but I didn't realize just how much time I needed, downtime, how clear my brain needed to be to hold the story together. It takes saying no to a lot.
Yeah. It seems to me that it's not just having some time scheduled, but it's sort of this deeper time that I think the pandemic led some of us to, I mean, there was, like you're saying, is a lot of bad things, of course, but the time was much more intense, and you almost had to go deep in some way to do. And so writing was a way you did that. And I love what you said about the many different ways, because I do think that we're told, I guess the culture, or maybe even MFA programs, which is odd because most of the people who graduate from MFA programs are not going to have an agent or publish commercially, I don't think. I think the vast majority do go with small presses. Some of the work that excites me the most is from a small press, because they can do it. They don't have to worry about like how many copies it's going to sell. So I don't know why more people don't talk about that, but thank you for doing that, Patti. I think that's really important.
If you like what you heard, check out the links below to learn more about Patti Meredith and to order a copy of her book. If books aren't in your budget right now, you can request one at your local library. It's an easy and wonderful way to support the writing community. And speaking of supporting the writing community, thanks for stopping by. I look forward to seeing you next time at the Memoir Cafe.